All right. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining me this Sunday evening as I finish my dinner, or at least my quick snack, because today was just a busy rush. So, have a guest on actually tonight. I didn't put it into the live stream notes, but we'll definitely edit that after the fact. But someone who's a friend of the channel, someone who has a tendency to invite himself on quite a few streams. I see him in the background snacking himself. So, have a fun topic today. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I hope everyone had a really good weekend. Um, and I hope you caught our videos from earlier this morning. So, today, wanted to continue our conversation from last week, which is when we actually started discussing suppressors. And one of the big changes that we saw over the last month or so was that the ATF actually got their butts in order and started approving suppressors and silencers almost like as little as 24 hours. And some people are getting them approved during the same day. And what that has actually caused was if you look at Silencer Shop, you look at a lot of the distributors, they're almost out of suppressors as everyone is trying to jump in and get their suppressor. So instead of waiting for 8 months or 10 months or 12 months or more, people are only waiting as little as, I would say, an average, let's say a week right now for the brand new submitted forms. And that opened up a lot of the conversations that we're having and having people take a look at the suppressors. Because I would say even like a year ago, suppressors are cool and everything, but I mean, you have that whole $200 tax stamp issue. And then you have the whole issue, okay, well, it's cool, but is it really worth waiting a year to possibly get? And now that it is more or less what it's supposed to be, which is near instantaneous or relatively soon, I think a lot of people are going to be looking at suppressors. Well, I guess we suppose we already know that a lot of people are looking at suppressors because, well, a lot of those distributors and dealers are completely out of cans. So I wanted to bring on my friend Aaron, and I know we've discussed suppressors with him in the past, and kind of talk about and combining the topic and talking a little bit more on the rimfire side. So I love um, shooting suppressed 22. And I would say one of the misconceptions people have about suppressors in particular is that, or like they call it a silencer. Okay? And like, especially if you watch John Wick and the whole unrealistic thing when these guys are like having a shootout in the middle of World Trade Center Plaza, which is just ridiculous. And like, no one's the wiser. It's like, okay, anyone who's actually shot suppressors knows that it's still loud. I mean, instead of talking like 160s decibels, you're looking at 135 or so. And even some of the quietest 9mm with subsonic ammo, you're still looking at like, let's say 117 to 120 decibels, which is basically like a balloon, like someone popping a balloon. Um, but I think the closest thing to actual Hollywood quiet is Rimfire 22, where there's a video that I saw where they actually compared the decibel ratings of shooting a suppressed 22 with things like a staple gun and other things like popping the balloon or running the bolt or running the action on a Glock. And it was really cool because rimfires with subsonic ammo is actually quieter than a lot of the other things going on. And well, I don't know anyone who knows more about rimfire than Mr. Anarchy Outdoors, Aaron. So we'll bring him on and talk about that in just a second. But before we dive into the conversation, this video or this live stream is going to be sponsored by us. And if you want to support the channel, if you want to get some awesome merchandise, so stickers, patches, things like that, do check out our website, luxgun.com. And then also on there, we have some shooting accessories, shooting tripods. You'll be able to purchase those directly from our website as well. And If you want to have, even want to continue our conversation beyond here or our comments, you can check out our Discord server, completely free to join. And there is, if you are a channel member, there is a discount. I'm sorry, there's a separate channel member section on Discord as well. And if you want some awesome goodies from Anarchy Outdoors, do support the channel, shop through our link. And we do have a discount code just for channel members as well. So on that note, let me bring on our friend Aaron. Hello, sir.
How you doing? Long time no talk.
I know. It seems like I just saw you like an hour ago, and it
Yep, I can feel that.
awesome. So last
By the
week,
way, I'm
yes,
still waiting on my patch.
I will send you a bunch of patches. Duh, didn't I give you one at SHOT Show? I was fairly positive I gave you one at SHOT Show.
No, you didn't have it. Remember, you didn't have it on you.
Okay. We'll wrong that right. We will fix that right.
Look, I mean, if it was on the patch wall, it'd be right in the center because it's freaking 8 inches by 8 inches.
No, it's 4.5 by 4.5, but you're close, and it glows in the dark. It's scary when it glows in the dark.
There you go.
Awesome. So, and I just saw the comment from you. He's still waiting for my patch in the private server. Nice. All right. So I am, we are streaming to YouTube, Twitter. We are also on Rumble. I am monitoring Rumble on here. And we can get to the questions on Facebook and YouTube. Hello, James. Saw there's a bunch of people that are here earlier. All right. So suppressors. I know we talked a little bit about this before. Now that you can legit get a can within a week or two, let's say. What is your take on suppressor use, either for hunting, for gun games, and in particular, if we can talk about on the rimfire side?
So I went and looked up the stats because I have never looked at them before. They're saying a Form 4 for an individual. The median wait time is 4 days.
Yep.
So I, as an SOT holder, I don't do suppressor transfers anymore. So I actually transferred. I have 8 suppressors that I'm about to do a Form 4 trust on. So we'll see if that 140 days is realistic.
Yeah. So actually, last week I transferred 3 cans last week. So on Tuesday, not this Tuesday, they just passed, but the Tuesday before, I put them in. I had one, I did for 4. I had one approved in the following day. I had another one approved 48 hours after. And then the third was approved 4 days after. And then actually one of them I'm still waiting on, which is weird. So one of them has not yet been approved, and it's been 2 weeks. So I am a little bit irked about that.
Did you do those through Silencer Shop, or did you do them through the website?
No. So my local SOT, my local dealer, is they did the e-forms, so we submitted it through their e-forms. They already had my prints, took the photo, so we did an e-form 4. We submitted those, and those were nice and quick.
And so I'm guessing you're doing them as an individual if they came back
as an individual
fast.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So
Nice.
trust takes a little bit longer, and the entire
I mean,
time,
the average used to be a year.
Yeah. So prior to
146 days is a lot less.
Well, so prior to this, my last can, which was a Dead Air Nomad L, that took 11 months on the dot, and my cans before that averaged right around 11 to 12 months as well. So these are legit significantly faster. They are going through those. And I know we discussed it the last time. So basically what it seems like is the ATF was getting sued by the state of Texas and some others because the original intention when the ATF came with the e-form system came out was, it was like, okay, we're going to get our average approval times down below 30 days. In the beginning, it's going to be 90 days. Then we're going to bring it down to 60, and then we're going to get it down to 30. Well, it did for like 2 months as the queue was empty. But as everyone started doing them, all that quickly basically got up to the same 10, 11 months, and it was just a little bit quicker. So now, basically, when states were starting to sue the ATF and start to withhold funding, ATF basically brought in, word is they brought in a bunch of new contractors to kind of come in, clean up the backlog, and all the new cans that are, all the new applications that are being submitted are going right to the front of the queue. And those are helping offset all of the existing cans that have been there for like 8 to 10 months, so that they can bring the average down. But there was a town hall with the assistant ATF director, and he basically said that now is going to be the new normal going forward.
That's I mean, abolish the ATF. I
Well,
mean,
yes.
this,
I mean, the
this
whole
is
thing's
this is
unconstitutional. So, the
yeah.
basic disclosure, the whole thing's unconstitutional, and I think suppressor should be sold over the counter anyway. But
Okay, so let's talk about suppressors, right?
Mhm.
Everybody's seen a suppressor in Hollywood, right? So let's talk about what the point of a suppressor is, right? A suppressor is to lower the decibels of the gunshot, right? Now, if you've ever shot a suppressor on a high-powered rifle, you still want to wear hearing protection, unless you're hunting, right? And then one round isn't going to permanently damage your ears. It might ring a little bit, but yeah, that's the point of the suppressor, right? Is to reduce the noise. Now, Hollywood has it completely wrong of how they portray it. Suppressors only lower the decibel. Most suppressors lower the decibels. Still, they're still in the 130s, right? Anything above
yeah, so depending on the
anything above
caliber,
100 is like extremely dangerous for your
140.
ears.
So anything over 140 leads to permanent hearing damage. Up to 140, so 140 decibels is the baseline. Now, without a suppressor, most of the gunshots are going to be about between 155 up into the high 160s, depending on the
Okay.
caliber.
Okay, so they reduce it to 130
So yeah,
to
so
100 to 130.
yeah, so essentially, what a suppressor can do is it can, let's say on average, if it reduces it by 20 decibels or 25, it can reduce, or basically like it would be the same as wearing hearing protection. However, depending on the calibers that you're shooting, or depending on the type of firearm you're shooting, like shooting a bolt gun is going to be completely different in the semi-auto. That a lot of the calibers, like if you put a suppressor on a 5.56, you still want to wear earmuffs because it's still not that comfortable without it.
Okay, so 140 decibels causes pain.
Yes.
Okay. So anything above 70 decibels is considered loud.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe if you're above 80 decibels for a sustained period of time, it will also lead to damage. That's where they talk about like your lawnmower and your weed whacker and air compressors, like just sustained noise.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what we're talking about. So typical suppressors will get you down into the 130 to 140 range, which
Yes.
is
Well, on
on this
centerfire.
chart.
On
What? Yeah,
centerfire.
on centerfire. We'll talk rimfire in a second. Well, and centerfire, it depends. If you're shooting subsonics, again, you're going to bring the noise way down, right? Because
Yes.
you're not
So for example,
producing a sonic crack.
yeah, so subsonic 300 blackout, you're going to be in the low 120s. Like you can get into like the low 120s.
What if you put a can on it?
No, subsonic with a can is low 120s.
Oh, okay. There you go. I guess I need to get my 8 cans so I can go shoot.
I only have a few. I only got 10.
This is my first submission. I'm submitting 8. So because I'm lazy and I don't like taking cans off guns.
Well, so the whole point, like even with me, is I hated waiting the whole 12 months. I'm like, okay, you know what? I think for the sake of the channel, because we do want to do suppressor content, I'm like, okay, when I got the cans, I'm like, okay, it's gonna take an average of a year. I'm like, okay, just hold off on it, just hold it. I'll pay the transfer fee, but let's not put in the paperwork because I'm gonna get my own FFL and SOT to make my job easier. But when the average wait times and I start seeing posts on Facebook like, oh, I got mine approved like in 2 days, I'm like, wait, this is actually legit what it is right now. I'm like, okay, you know what? Let me just do the let me pay my $800 in taxes in order to get my can. So it's like, okay, it's like I'm still pissed off about writing that checks, but at least I'm going to get my suppressor within like a day or two.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree with that. And for everyone listening, it's like, oh, I'll get my FFL or SOT. That's a bad plan. Don't do that. SOTs are $500 a year, just so everyone
Correct.
here knows. Which isn't a big deal if you're creating content and can generate revenue around it. But they also aren't looking to set up things for individuals that basically collecting stuff, right?
Yeah.
If you're selling and doing trades, then they'll work with you.
Well, I mean, the big thing is, like, I mean, if you go down that road of becoming an FFL, and it's the same conversation as like the people who get an FFL so they can buy guns cheaper. Keep in mind when you're getting an FFL or an SOT for machine guns and suppressors, you're also giving the ATF a 24/7 invitation to come to your house or your registered address and search for your stuff. And that's going to be one of those things that, well, do you really want to open up that door?
I hope you set it up in a separate LLC away from everything else that you have.
Yeah.
So,
well, no, at this point, like
we can go down a whole FFL setup on a different day in business LLCs, whatever. Let's talk suppressors.
Yeah, so suppressors.
So let's back to the topic of suppressors. The United States of America is the only country in the civilized world where you have to do the tax stamp protocol to get a suppressor. Now you can go to England, you can go to New Zealand, you can go to Germany.
Your civilized countries.
Yeah. You can go to Ukraine. I mean, Afghanistan. What? Afghanistan? What? Anyways. So in England, it's considered rude to shoot without a suppressor.
Yeah.
Same in New Zealand, it's considered rude to shoot without a suppressor. And you can buy them over the counter. Now, in those countries, it takes you a year or whatever to get a license to then purchase a firearm and then more paperwork and more time. So in America, you can, if you have a good background check, you can go pick up a gun in an afternoon, but you can't with a suppressor, which is really frustrating because one, they don't silence the noise enough. Like you can still register it's a gun shop.
Yep.
And two, the rest of the world you can buy them over the counter. And I'm surprised in England or New Zealand they're not mandatory. Oh, you bought a rifle? It's not threaded? Well, go get it threaded because you have to have your mandatory suppressor on the end of it.
Yeah.
So let's talk. Why would you get a suppressor, right? Number one, if you've never shot a rifle with a suppressor, you will never understand this. It's one of those things you have to experience. And there's some YouTube videos out there where they take Congress people or they take celebrities and who have no idea what a suppressor does and they shoot them, and it's a game-changing experience. So there's some cool videos out there about that. But if you've never shot a rifle with a suppressor, one, a suppressor will do two things. It will help mitigate some of the recoil of the rifle, and two, it mitigates sound. Now, there's some specialized suppressors out there that will mitigate barrel rise, recoil, and sound. There's some things made like anything. There's specialized different things. There's suppressors that help with flowback and blowback and all sorts of stuff, right? But the point is everyone should own a suppressor. And it sounds like if the ATF really can get the times down to a couple weeks, that will force the suppressor industry to drop its prices. You'll watch the price come down as demand goes up. currently the suppressor companies can charge whatever they want.
Yes.
Right, because they have a captive audience, but you drive the wait time down, and the price will go up. Or you'll see companies willing to pay your stamp or other things, right?
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, and Silencer Shop right now already, like if you're on mailing list, like for example, like Q and some others, like they'll do like a free tax stamp promo for this or that. But I mean, out of anything in the industry, I think suppressors right now still have some of the highest margins in the industry. But the problem is, it's the barrier to entry was just so high, and most people didn't want to deal with it. And especially, I mean, you still have the challenge of once you get, if you want, there's no like really aftermarket for suppressors in terms of if you want to sell yours, because not only do you pay a tax stamp when you purchase it, if you want to sell it, well, now you need to pay another tax stamp to transfer it to a dealer. And then, so there's
you really have to do that.
Well, you have to
I thought you could transfer it into the dealer without
that's the wait. No, there's more tax stamps that go through it. Anytime it goes from the individual, it's not dealer. It's because it's not going dealer to dealer. It's individual to dealer, or it's going to go from you to somebody else. Everyone's paying the tax stamp. So that's the pain in the butt part on. That's if you're going to buy it, you're going to keep it.
I'll have to look that up because dealer to dealer transfers, there's no fee, right?
There is no fee.
Manufacturer to dealer, or manufacturer to distributor to dealer. Yep. There's no.
Those are non-taxable.
There's no tax. Now turning it back in, I don't know. I'd have to ask. I have you know what? We should do a live stream with my lawyer buddy. We'll see if we can get him on. He specializes in NFA. He specializes in NFA trusts, and he specializes in the NFA stuff. He sits on the, I think it's the National Silencer Suppressor Board or American Associate of Suppressors.
American Suppressor Association.
Yeah, he sits on the board. I think he sits on the board, or he's highly involved with them. He's a great dude. We'll have to get him on for one of these discussions. But yeah, so suppressors, right? Why do you want one? Well, it makes the gun more enjoyable to shoot. Okay, so let's talk use cases. Let's see. We covered how to get one, the stamp. Oh, so let's cover individual versus trust. So Max has done all of his individual, right?
Yep.
Okay, so what that means is only him can take his suppressors out and use them, unless he invites you to his range day, and then you can use his suppressors. Okay. What it also means is on his death, he can assign a beneficiary. That beneficiary can fill out paperwork that will allow the transfer of that suppressor to the beneficiary without a tax stamp.
Correct.
But it has to be, you've got to make sure it's in your will or whatever, your testament or whatever, right? But they can be transferred without any issues. And my lawyer buddy, he's the one that pointed that out to me because I didn't think that was possible. But he said, yes, there's a simple form you fill out and you can transfer NFA items as long as it's like an inheritance type thing. So now we talk trust. Why would you do a trust? Well, number one, you do a trust because then you can add people to the trust and they can take out your suppressor. So if I want to add my brother or my dad, I could add them to my trust and they could take out my NFA items. Now, I'm very particular with my items, so I would have a hard time loaning out a suppressor without going to the range. Just the way they attach, the way you have to make sure they're lined up, a lot of different ways. You can blow a suppressor off the end of your gun pretty easy. So, like anything, you don't want a novice taking out your $1,000 can and then flinging it down the rifle range with a hole in it. So, just a lot of precautions and different things, right? They mount differently and different things. So, the other benefit to the trust is I don't actually own the suppressors.
Correct.
My trust does. So, if I get in trouble and I get my gun rights taken away, well, they can't confiscate my stuff because it's not mine. So a lot of different ways you can go about getting a suppressor. Okay, so I'll just go real quick. You get online, you find the suppressor you want, you buy it, you send it to a dealer, you go into a dealer, they have it on the shelf, you buy it, you submit a Form 1 or a Form 4 via the
Form 4.
well, you can do a
Form
sorry.
Form 1 is to manufacture your
Yeah,
own.
we could talk about Form 1 on another day. You can do a Form 4 individual or trust. You submit the paperwork, you pay your $200, and if you bought it online and had it transferred to an FFL, an SOT, you're probably going to have a $50 transfer fee. Whatever, you can buy through Silencer Shop. They've got dealers all over the place. It's actually become pretty easy to buy a suppressor. And if the ATF is, I mean, their numbers are looking really good, and if they keep them like that, then the barrier to entry of a suppressor is non-existent. And the $200 stamp, just be grateful they haven't scaled it with inflation. That tax in 1945 would have been brutal, but today it's not hard. And a lot of the suppressor companies will either do, hey, buy one get one half off, or buy one get one free, or buy one I'll cover your stamp. So just wait for deals and look for look for things.
Yeah,
and then decide what. And then the next thing is to decide what suppressor mounting system you want to go with and stick with it so you can move them between guns. So, okay.
That's a different topic.
Yeah.
So the question I actually asked you.
So what question was that? Sorry.
I don't know. What question did I ask you before you hijacked this? No, so basically, talk about the use case for particularly suppressors within not just the regular range stuff or hunting, but rather the use case for would somebody actually use one during a match, and then in particular for 22. So I've had, well, let's start with that, and I'll share my experience, and then we'll continue.
Okay, perfect. So we'll start with question number 1. Why would you? Okay, so I'm not a lawyer. Seek legal advice. Read your state laws. Okay, that's the caveat number 1. If it is legal to use a suppressor in your state to hunt with, it's amazing. Number 1, if you live in the West and you shoot long distances, it's the animals can't hear you, right? If you're shooting beyond 300 yards, the animal won't hear the bullet shot, right? So hunting with a suppressor is absolutely amazing. 1, you don't have to wear earplugs while you're running around the mountains. 2, you don't have to worry about those hunting around you or with you. And 3, if you're hunting, especially if there's light snow on the ground, or it's snowing, the animals can't hear the shot past 100 yards. And even if they do hear it, they're going to settle much faster. Now, the caveat is be ethical and only do what your limits can do, right? But it is very helpful, especially if you hunt in groups where you're hunting bull elk or whatever, and you're going to shoot 2 of the 3 that are in a herd. You can shoot one, or you're going to shoot a cow and a bull elk. You can shoot one, and then you can shoot the other one without them freaking out, because it's a lot less. It's a lot quieter, right? Especially if you get beyond a couple hundred yards from the shot. So for hunting, yes, I would recommend hunting with a suppressor always. And the first animal, well, my only big game animal that I've killed, I shot with a suppressor, and it just makes life awesome.
Yep. And actually, James had the same comment. I know he's in Texas, so I love them. So suppressors don't bleed the ears and don't scare animals with 7 PRC.
Well, hey, James, what length is your 7 PRC? I'm thinking 24 inches with a 5-inch suppressor. Hopefully this year I'll build it. I've got the action sitting. Okay, second question was, beyond typical range. Number 1, no one likes shooting next to Aaron Gines because he runs a big old muzzle brake at the range, and he blows stuff everywhere, and no one likes it. Okay?
Yeah.
This is why I don't shoot at public ranges.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, and actually I think that's one of the things. I mean, people talk about muzzle brakes and reducing recoil. Well, if you want an effective muzzle brake, unfortunately, it's going to be obnoxiously loud. At least most of the good brakes, they are going to be obnoxiously loud. And that's why a lot of the guys who are shooting the matches, I mean, like, you're not just going to put earmuffs on, you're going to put plugs in as well, because especially if you're shooting under canopies and stuff, it is freaking loud, especially if you're next to somebody who is shooting an obnoxious break.
Yeah, because especially at, like, PRS matches, you shoot through tires or like those cement culverts. Yeah, stick the end of a muzzle brake into the culvert and pull the trigger. You're gonna stand up ringing. And an interesting thing, KGM, they don't do as much civilian sales anymore because
They're back. They're back. So actually,
They're-
my four cans are
back.
My 4 cans are KGM cans.
Wow, they're that's interesting. They're back, huh?
So
You must have lost
KGM,
a contract.
apparently they ramped up production. So they were, actually, here, give me a second. I'm gonna go get a couple of the KGM cans if you want to talk about that one. So give me a second. I'm gonna
About which piece? KGM?
Yeah, so I have the R30 and I have the R6 and the
Okay,
RF22.
so all of you losers out there, a year ago, KGM decided to stop civilian suppressor sales, and they cleared out all their suppressors for like $300, $350. And I happened to get, I think out of my 8 cans, I have 3 KGM cans that are phenomenal. So I have a not a friend, but an associate, a contact, a Facebook friend, whatever you want to call it. He works at KGM, and he's ex-military. He's been downrange. He cannot shoot a rifle without a muzzle brake due to TBI and post-traumatic stress and things. So he works for KGM, and they worked on a suppressor that will reduce muzzle rise and reduce recoil for precision rifle for PRS. And it was really interesting to talk to him because they said you could put sensors on people's heads, and after a few rounds, you can start to see a negative impact that the recoil from a muzzle brake or the blast back from a muzzle brake is having on the person, and it doesn't take very many rounds for that to be shown. And as I've shot centerfire for a long time, and I'll tell you, after shooting 80 rounds or 100 rounds on a hot day and getting pounded by a muzzle brake, your cognitive ability declines. You're just not the same. Now, there are some muzzle brakes out there that do a very good job at protecting the shooter at the expense of anybody standing next to them. But those brakes are phenomenal as well. So shooting a suppressor in, say, PRS centerfire matches is typically looked as a disadvantage because they don't control muzzle rise or reduce recoil as much as a brake can, especially these brakes like the APA Fat Bastard and Little Bastard and Micro Bastard and the Area 419 precision rifle brake, the Strike Without Warning brake tuner combo, and there's a bunch of other ones, great brakes that are out there. But there are guys that can't shoot those big brakes for health reasons and other reasons, and they run suppressors. And KGM probably has one of the best suppressors to run at PRS matches. They created a 6mm can, which I think is one of the only 6mm cans on the market specifically for PRS, and it's a great can. The other can I would suggest is the Area 419 Maverick. Now, the Maverick you can adjust into several lengths, and you can run it in a short configuration. So I run the Maverick in its 5-inch configuration with its anchor brake, and it takes the recoil out and the rise, and then doesn't affect the shooter. One of my favorite cans that I got going on, or that I've used in PRS. So. Well, let's leave it there before we move on. Any questions? Everyone make funny comments about Max while he's gone.
Yeah, I know. So,
okay, number one, how much did you pay for the KGM cans?
Between $250 and $400 for the different ones. So this
Nice.
is the 22. So we're talking. These are
So
called
talk about
tube.
markup because they sell for $1,000 a piece.
Yes. So here's the R6. Actually, let's start with the R30. So I guess you're
Oh
talking
no, start
about.
with the R6 because I had just talked about how the R6 was specifically designed for PRS, and I believe it's the only 6mm can on the market,
Is it?
or it was when they made it. Why else
So
would you make a 6mm can?
so energetic armament. They have the Ferrex. Well, no. Now there's a couple more. So energetic armament has the Ferrex right now, which is they call it the Ferrex 556, but it is the aperture is actually 6mm, so it runs with like 6 arc, things like that. So this is the R6. Basically, it's significantly smaller. So here is my 30 cal tube. So you can kind of see, I mean, how much more optimized it is. Significantly smaller when you have that. And then you have the openings on the front, so you can tune those as well. So that's their APEC. Definitely a cool little thing. But now, because 6 arc got as popular as it is, and because it's basically being picked up for a contract, Huxworks OSS, they have the Flow 556. That one, you have that, which is a 6mm. So I think you maybe like you have like 3 or 4
Yeah, but none of them are dedicated 6mm cans built to be on the end of a bolt gun.
for bolt gun. No, so the other 6mm were basically optimized for 6mm arc, 6 arc
Right.
on a gas gun. They're not meant for like 6GT and 6 Creeds and all of those guys.
Right.
This
And the
was
can
optimized for the
yep.
6 Creed.
Yeah. Yes. So that's the can I was so while you walked away, I was talking about one of the employees over at KGM. He's got either post traumatic or has a TBI and he can't shoot with a muzzle brake. That can was specifically designed to allow him to shoot a 6mm in PRS.
Oh, wow.
So it's a phenomenal can. I've got one. It's coming as soon as I submit my paperwork, and we'll play with it.
Yeah.
But tomorrow I'm gonna go
So
submit my paperwork.
that one is going to be going on a 6 arc. We have the Savage 110 switchback that I bought, so that's going to go directly on there. That's going to be a fun can. Really looking forward to it because I think that particular one is also going to solve a little bit of an issue. And then we have the R30, so everybody gets a 30 cal can. I think 30 cal is going to be a good one. But here's a question for you in particular. So one of the things that I noticed, like when I got my first suppressors for center fire rifle. Well, it's actually my first suppressor was for 9mm, and that was fun. Then I got a 22 can, and that's stupid fun, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But then I got my first real suppressor, which was a 30 cal can. And when you're shooting it out of like a 6mm or you're shooting it at a 5.56, like, okay, it's quieter. There's a lot of benefits to it. But I put that 30 cal can on my Savage 110 Elite Precision 300 PRC, and I hated the experience. I disliked it. I mean, like, yes, it's the first time. It was cool that you're able to shoot hearing safe a large Magnum cartridge, but what I hated about it was that it completely changed the recoil impulse of the gun. And something like a 300 PRC, I mean, like, yeah, it's a nice hit, and it lets you know that it's there. When you put a suppressor on there, yes, it's quieter and it reduces a bit of the recoil. But now it was, instead of just like a big knock and it's done, it's like it's a knock and it's prolonged because of the back pressure in the can to make it quieter, it also prolonged the recoil impulse, and I just didn't like it. Then I put on the Strike Without Warning muzzle brake tuner, and that's a very effective brake. And it's like it made the gun super loud, but it significantly cut the recoil, and it was much more enjoyable to shoot. So that's kind of like that's my only thing with suppressors, because
what 30 cal suppressor did you put on the 300 PRC?
so I shot it with a number of them. So I have, first it was the Resonator R2, and then the Dead Air Nomad L. So both of them are extremely, and this Odinworks Badlands. They're all
Okay, so
they're high back pressure cans, and
So
they are extremely effective.
Try the KGM. I want
Yes.
to know, to take your 300 PRC out to your next range day.
Yeah.
Put one round in it and put that KGM 30 cal can on the end. I want to know. I want to know how it goes.
It'll probably be better. So that's the question for you, because I mean, when we're talking about running PRS or NRL matches, or let's say 3-gun, and I see we're joined by Bending Ballistics. You can chime in on here. The vast majority of competitors seemingly don't use suppressors because it changes that recoil impulse, and it takes just that bit longer for the gun to get back on target versus an effective muzzle brake.
Yes, I mean, one of the reasons you don't see competitors using as many suppressors as muzzle brakes is there's a number of reasons. One, muzzle rise, recoil reduction, and so those are your two big ones, right? Muzzle rise, recoil reduction, and also a lot of guys get into the sport. It takes a year to get a can, so it's just a really long time to get a can. So those are 3 drawbacks to shooting a can in PRS. Now, that being said, over the last couple of years, there are two main suppressor companies, or three suppressor companies that have put in quite a bit of work to create a can that is that can compete with some of these muzzle brakes. Now, the Strike Without Warning muzzle brake is on a different level by itself. It's a phenomenal brake, and the tuner shrouds the shooter from the muzzle blast. But I would put the Strike Without Warning brake up against my Area 419 Maverick any day of the week. And actually, there's a YouTube video where I'm working with Morgan King on some drills on Anarchy's YouTube channel, and you can watch his gun and you can watch my gun, and they're really close. So those are the reasons you don't see suppressors a ton, and also it makes your barrel stupid long. And if you're having to take your gun in and out of barricades, well, you just added 6 or 7 or 8 inches. So the 3 suppressor companies that have really upped their game is KGM. Again, they designed specific cans for PRS style shooting. Number 2 is Area 419, the Maverick. In my opinion, if you're going to shoot PRS, there nothing beats the Maverick can, 5-inch with the anchor brake. It beats most muzzle brakes, honestly. And then the Thunder Beast Arms is the other company who has created some amazing rifle cans. And I didn't notice the extra recoil impulse when I shot Cody's 300 PRC with his. Okay. Can't remember if he has a 7 or a 9 Ultra on his gun. I'm thinking he has a 9, but I didn't notice anything. I just noticed how ridiculous easy it is to hit a 1,000-yard plate with a 300 PRC.
Yes.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, and PPC cans, Bending Ballistics, are a whole nother world, right? If you're gonna run a PPC, you want to have a very specific can for PPC. Yeah. Especially like I have one of the 8 suppressors I have coming is an AB can, which I have no idea what I'm going to do with because I don't have a PPC that has a barrel long enough that I could stick the can on top of, because it's got its threads are 3 inches recessed into the can. so it goes over the top of the barrel. So I might have to call Ruger and get one of their PPCs, so I have a gun to use that can with.
Yep. So actually, comment. So no one from Bending Ballistics, no one uses cans in 3-gun. I have 13 in over. I've seen 13 in over 500 matches. And I would basically assume this is almost kind of like the same thing, but it will be interesting. So, for example, if the ATF is going to stick to the approval times where it's going to take a week or two at the most in order to get a can, I do wonder if that is going to start changing. And especially since we do already have some night shoots and things like that, where suppressors are going to be required to be mandatory, but it will be interesting to see. Now, the one that I'm most peculiar about, because the one discipline where I don't see any negatives to suppressors is rimfire stuff. I love shooting rimfire with 22. The cans are tiny, they don't add any weight, and it legit is like shooting a staple gun. So what about on the PRS and NRL 22 circles? Do you guys shoot cans there?
My current 22's barrel is not threaded, so no can for my 22. And shooting a subsonic 22 isn't. You can barely tell. It's kind of annoying when guys use a suppressor in the matches because you don't even know they fired their gun. Like I'm looking through.
If you're wearing Gear Pro,
like I'm looking through the. So some of the matches I shoot, there's like several firing stations like close together, so you're hearing the guys shoot, and it's not super loud, but you can hear the gun go off. It's not loud at all, actually. It's like pew. That's it. So you can hear the gun going off here, and then you're watching the guy in front of you, and you hear pew, pew, and then nothing. And you're like, the target moves, and you go, oh, impact. He's like, I shot, like, or you're like trying to count targets or whatever, and you can't hear them. Anyways, so this is the feedback that I've had. I have personally never ran a suppressor in NRL 22 matches.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of what I've heard is it could be not logical fallacy. It could just be, urban legend. A lot of guys don't like running cans in 22 competition because when you stand the rifle up, they say all of the carbon and crud falls down into the chamber, down into the trigger.
Is true.
All of that. Okay, so I shot 3 weeks ago with a guy who's like, that's just BS. He's like, whatever. He's like, there's not that much stuff falling out of the end of your suppressor. And he shot his match with his suppressor on it, and his gun shoots just fine. But none of the top competitors use a silencer. So I don't know. I'll have to put as soon as I get my cans back, I'll have to put one on a gun, and I'll have to try to see if there's a difference in cleanliness, in whatever, right? But there is nothing more fun than shooting a 22 with a suppressor on it. You hear the trigger click. Yep. That's all it is. It's just fun. And even subsonics without a suppressor, if you're 15 feet away, you may not hear it either. Like it's
well, I guess the one aspect to it is because if you're at a match and you're shooting rimfire match ammo, all of that is going to be subsonic. So it's not like you
can shoot CCI standard.
You can, but even CCI standard is subsonic. I mean, it's
is it? I thought it was CCI, super
CCI standard. It's standard velocity. It's subsonic.
Okay,
it's just below.
I think the only one is there's a high speed SK, but not a lot of people use it. There's a high velocity SK match ammo, but not a lot of people use it.
Okay.
But if you shoot Ely's right on the border. So if you take like Lapua or SK, they're made by the same company. They usually shoot like 1080, 1090. Now Ely shoots like 1140, 1180. So it's right. Ely pushes the boundary on its And and the best part at the 22 matches is every once in a while you'll run the bolt and you'll go whack, and you have a hypersonic round in the middle of your ammo just go flying out of your gun.
Hypersonic.
Supersonic, whatever it's called. Supersonic.
Yes. Hypersonic is like hyperspeed.
Oh, good.
That'd be actually a hypersonic 22 would probably be the one that blows up your gun. Although, can you even overstuff at 22?
I mean, green tip is probably hypersonic.
Yeah. All right. And yeah, so Lapua makes SK. No, I don't think they make Ely. Ely is a separate company.
No, so Lapua and SK are made in Germany. Ely is made in England.
Yep. Yeah.
And Lapua uses oil and Ely uses wax coatings on the ammo.
Pros and cons? Since we have the Mr. Rimfire here.
Honestly, not really. A lot of guys shoot. Well, SK and Lapua was hard to find, so I bought a bunch of Ely, but Ely must have had a slight hiccup in their manufacturing because I get duds in about 1 out of 20 rounds, which is a lot.
Wow.
But I think they fixed that. Okay, I have some older ammo. Don't quote me on that. But rimfire is all about what your gun likes. Okay. And you can have the chamber cut. Okay, so I live in the world of custom 22s. If you're going to the store and you're buying a Tikka or a Bagara or a Ruger, they're cut for certain types of ammo. Yeah, but 8 months ago you couldn't find any, or 6 months ago you couldn't find any SK or Lapua. So it's become a lot more prevalent. I mean, I have 5,000 rounds of Center X that I've bought in the last 3 months, but I couldn't find it for a year before that. So, but it kind of depends on what your gun likes. Now, if you buy like a IBI barrel, IBI barrels are cut for Ely. If you buy a Voodoo from Voodoo and you don't tell them to do anything else, they're cut for Lapua. They're different chambers and specs for the different types of ammo. They're slightly different from each other. So if you're getting into the world of a custom 22, they will chamber it for the type of ammo you want to shoot. So if you're sponsored by Lapua, you can have a gun built just to shoot Lapua really well. Now, if you're shooting, for the Olympics and you shoot for Ely, your gun is going to only shoot Ely, right? So there are some differences and caveats there. And if you're going to the store and you're buying a gun off the shelf, do a little research. I have them all. They all shoot everything pretty well. But if you buy aftermarket barrels and stuff, you have to be kind of careful with what it's chambered for now. And then if you order, you can order a barrel for whatever you want, right? So
yeah, that's interesting. So I know like a lot of people they swear by Ely. I've really had really good luck with SK, with both Standard Plus and SK Match, which is basically the same thing except one is QC reject. But some of the rimfire guns, actually particularly my 1022, my Gucci 1022, which was, oh my God, it starts with an A, Azimuth Precision, which they came in, that they left out. I mean, this gun is like a nail driver, and it loved SK, it loved Lapua ammo, it loved Wolf. Ely is like, it just, the group started opening up, almost like CCI standard velocity was better. And then like other guns, I'm like, I got some of the I got some of the Ely match ammo, and it's like in one gun it shoots really well, other guns it's like it's nothing special, and it's like, okay, well, people swear by this ammo, so it's like, what's going on with it?
You have to test your gun.
Yeah.
And your gun may shoot one lot really well and it may not shoot the next lot. Now, the real interesting thing that I've learned about SK Standard, which is the yellow box, is if Midas Plus or Center X misses its mark, it goes straight into the yellow box.
Yep.
So you can get
same thing with Match.
You can get some yellow boxes that are phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then you can get some standard yellow boxes.
Actually, so this is actually an interesting one. The Norman Match 22 LR ammo is decent ammo if someone wants affordable 22 match ammo for pretty cheap. So Norma has been coming in with good centerfire ammo. I have
Uh,
not shot their rimfire stuff.
Their rimfire is pretty decent. The problem I have bending ballistics is I have to shoot Center X or Midas or Exact because the guys that I shoot against, there's 15 of us, and whoever has a bad day ends up at the bottom, and whoever has a good day ends up at the top.
Wow.
So your gun has to be 100% dialed in, and your ammo has to be the same. So I took my 22 out to 400 yards shooting waterline tests to see what my spread, my vertical spread is, right? Because we don't really care about horizontal spread, care about vertical spread. And what I learned was that I could fit on a 12-inch plate at 400 yards, I could fit 10 rounds of yellow box. But the moment I put Lapua Center X in it, I shrunk it in half.
Wow.
And even at 50 yards, the groups they're the same ratio. So when I shoot against guys, and I shoot Salt Lake, Big Salty NRL 22, Salt Lake 22, last month there was 70 guys. And out of that 70 guys, the top 25 could go to nationals and be in the top 25. Like it's insane. Like I dropped 10 rounds and I took 10th place. The guy that won it dropped 2. The guy that took 3rd, or the guy that took 2nd, dropped 3. The guy that took 4th dropped 4. Like it's just super competitive where I shoot. So I swing big for the fence.
Very cool. Okay, so this is actually an interesting one. I know we've discussed this in the past. So I only have a 22 just for my kids and grandson, just to teach them how to shoot. I'm not big into 22s, but it seems like maybe 22 is going to be growing. Or like if somebody is, let's say, if you're a PRS for a 3-gun shooter, why should someone try competitive 22?
You ever heard of marijuana? It's the gateway drug. Okay, so I started centerfire PRS. I also thought 22 was dumb. Now, I have watched guys come into 22 and take the skill sets that they've learned and transfer them into centerfire with incredible results, right? Centerfire is expensive. Even shooting 223 is expensive. You can go buy 5 times the ammo for the same price of the 22. And if you take a 22 out to 250 yards, you can simulate a centerfire out to 600 yards or 700 yards. So a lot of gun ranges don't have more than 100 yards. A lot of gun ranges don't have more than 300 yards.
Yeah.
I happen to live in the great state of Utah, where I have access to private ranges that we have built, and we're building another one in 2 weeks on some property of a buddy of mine, where we'll have all the targets you could ever dream of. But a lot of ranges don't have that. And the 22, using American ammo, the 22 is teach your kids trigger control, load a gun, gun safety. American 22 ammo is garbage for precision shooting, right? Americans' philosophy on 22 ammo is quantity, not quality, whereas German and English is quality, not quantity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very different. And there's another company, RWS. RWS. I've heard great things. Rimfire. What's Josh's YouTube channel?
Pursuit of Accuracy.
Pursuit of Accuracy. He's done some great testing with the RWS or whatever. And then one of the guys I shoot against at my local match also has had great results with his as well. And that's the thing with 22, especially if you're a high competitor. If you find something your gun likes, go buy 5,000 rounds of it. Same lot number, right? Has to be same lot number. And that's why they have testing facilities. You can send your gun to Lapua. You can send it to Ely. They'll put it in a vise. They'll shoot 50 lots through it, and they'll be like, here's your lot, and then you just got to be ready to write that check for 5,000 rounds. And your gun will be unstoppable, and after 2 years, you go do it again. So, anyways, but back to teaching your kids with 22. Like, you can simulate super long range, and you can learn the wind on confined spaces with a 22. And I wasn't really big into the 22 until I started really learning what 22 could do for my fundamentals, for my practice, for calling the wind. I haven't shot a ton of centerfire recently, but I'm about to get back into it. I dedicated my match per month to the series in Salt Lake City, and I'm in second place. And you have to shoot it every month. It's like an attendance-based match. So if I miss a month, I will fall out of second place instantly. So I'm in second place. So I have three more months to shoot, maybe 2 more months to shoot, and then I'm going to start doing alternating rimfire and centerfire matches again. But yeah, I mean, everything you can learn from a centerfire, you can learn with a 22. Now, learn good body position, respiratory pause, trigger control, because when you go to centerfire, you got to deal with recoil, and that will throw you off. So if you pick up bad habits at 22, the centerfire will beat you down. So
very cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah, bending ballistics. I mean, 6-year-olds can shoot 223s or 308s or whatever, right? But are you going to put 100 rounds through it with them? Are you going to put 200 rounds with them? Are you going to, how long before their shoulder hurts and different things? Whereas the 22, especially in a precision bolt gun with a good scope, you can shoot it all day.
Okay. All right. So here's a question. Let's say, for example, somebody is going to get a 22. So this week we did a video on the Winchester Xpert 22. But let's say, for example, somebody does, let's say, for example, they want to get a precision 22. So they're going to get a Ruger American long range target, or they're going to get a Ruger Precision Rimfire or a teak of any of those guns. Are those going to be ready out of the box, or will somebody need to get accessories to get the most out of those guns? And what will those accessories be?
Nothing is ready out of the box. You got to put a scope base on it. You got to put a scope on it. You got to put rings. Just kidding.
Besides the scope, the rings.
The gun that is most ready out of the box is the Ruger Precision and the Bergara B14R.
Okay.
The Ruger Precision Rimfire comes, and honestly, I always forget, the Ruger American long range target.
Yep.
Also comes pretty much ready out of the box. So those three don't require a ton of upgrades. You can upgrade any gun for your personal preferences, and for like our Bergara B14 handle is adds functionality to the gun. The Bergara B14 handle is too far forward. Like, first time I shot the gun, I totally missed the handle because I'm used to the handle sweeping back a little bit. I reached forward, went up, and there was no handle in my hand. I was like, I freaking hate this gun. I literally shot the gun, took it back to the office, set it on my my designer's desk, and I said, I want a handle that sweeps backwards. Like, the first time I shot the gun. So then we have a handle that sweeps backwards. So the Bergara B14 is ready to go out of the box. You might want to add an arc rail to it. You may want to add a couple things. You may not like the stock, but it's a Remington 700. You can do whatever you want. You may swap the trigger to a better trigger. The Ruger Precision Rimfire, same story, ready to go out of the box. Add an arc rail to it. Change the scope base out, maybe. Change the handle out. Anarchy Outdoors' handle just works better, but ready to go out of the box. Now, the accuracy of a B14R versus a Ruger, I mean, it really depends on which Ruger you got and if you've done ammo testing with it. Say with the Bergara B14R, but they seem to have better. They seem to just be more accurate out of the box. I mean, the Bergara B14R is an $800 gun. The Ruger is a $400 gun. Now the Tiga T1Xs, I mean, they're just in a crappy stock. So I would replace the stock with a KRG Bravo or an Oryx, or there's a bunch of stocks out there.
Mm-hmm.
They go well. Other than that, again, we make a handle. Our Tiga T1X handle is very much like the Bergara B14R handle. It sweeps back. It's super adjustable. The handle on the Tika is really small, so our handle works great. I don't think the Tika T1X comes with a scope base. We make scope bases for it. I mean, ready to shoot. I've seen Tikas be stupid accurate, and I've seen them be decently accurate. I mean, I've seen them be accurate, and I've seen them be stupid accurate out of the box. And then we got the Bagara BMR, which is kind of like a Ruger American non-target, a Ruger American Predator rimfire. Again, the stock is okay. There's not a ton of aftermarket support.
What about the Christensen?
Throw it in the garbage. And Christensen Arms is made straight down the street from me. I hate the Ranger. I hate the Ranger. I have no personal experience with the accuracy of that gun. I have never taken one out to the range. Maybe I should call them and see if they'd borrow me one, but just the bolt handle is tiny. It doesn't feel smooth. I don't know. When you get one, let me know. We can try it out. Or maybe I'll call Christensen and see if they'll send me one to play with. So they just ordered from us the other day. So
very cool.
Fierce Firearms has a rimfire. Which I talked to them about trying. They kind of went more with like a varmint hunting style. I don't know if you would see them too much in competition, but I don't know. It's another rimfire on the market. Let's see what else is in the lower the Bagara BMR we talked about a little bit. Again, that needs a scope base, and everything needs an RL. So the Cricket can go chirp in its own world. It's a single shot. The Savage got the Mark II. I got beat once in competition by Mark II.
Oh, actually, we missed the CZs. How did we miss the CZs?
Then you got the CZ 457. Now they come in a whole bunch of different stocks. So if you buy the right stock, it's ready out of the box. If I was to buy a CZ, I'd buy the heavy barreled varmint version, which then you need to replace the stock because it's not great. But CZ makes great guns. I've seen one of the best shooting 22s I've ever seen is a pencil barreled CZ. And then I've had several CZs and they've been good. Trying to think. And then of course you have your high rollers. You got your Rimexes. You got your Curtis. You got your Voodoos. L3I just released a clone of an old Remington Rimfire. I don't remember. It's like I don't remember the name of it, but yeah. So lots of options. They all need. I mean, it just depends on what you're using it for. Plink it in the backyard. Buy a 1022. So
here's the thing: would guys shoot semi-auto like a 1022 or like a high-end 1022 in a match, or is it primarily going to be bolt actions, and why?
It's like 100-2 ratio. Like it's pure bolt actions. Now there are a few semi-autos, and PRS 22 has a semi-auto class, meaning if you're good and you just want a trophy, go get yourself a 22 semi-automatic. But no, we're talking like kid super grade is what you need probably to compete. But I've been tempted to buy that 1022 custom shop and see how it does.
Okay.
I might have to email someone at Ruger and see.
Yeah, so some of the changes that they did for the custom shop ones, now they have double the barrel lockup. So not only do they lock up at the top, but they also lock at the bottom as well. So they make them a little bit more accurate. But I will say, so I'll have to, next time I come out.
It's all about how the bolt locks up, though.
Yeah.
Do they do anything to the bolt?
I don't recall. I don't recall looking at them. Like, it's just one of the things that came out. So on Rumble, we had a comment, CZ 457 all the way. So here's the question: why is the CZ 457 so popular? And I guess like when we're talking about CZ as a company, people know them for two things: for CZ 75 and everything else in their handgun lineup sucks. And then you have the CZ 457s, and their center fire stuff is like no one cares about anymore. So like, why the 457?
So you have to start with the 452, which was a solid gun. Then you go to the 455. The 455 is like a Soviet era. It looks like a Soviet era gun. And then you get to the 457. They did a very good job at modernizing the 457 and how they did the safety and a bunch of different things. But man, they just shoot. 457s are just great guns. What really sucks is they were allowing us to import just the action. So my 457 has a Bartlett barrel. Well, it has got an IWI barrel on it now because my Bartlett barrel died after 4 years. It just died. I don't know what happened to it. But they won't allow you. They won't allow the. I don't know if it was the U.S. or the Czechoslovakian government that wouldn't allow them. They stopped importing just the action. If they were still importing the action, I think you'd see a lot more custom built 457s than some of the Remingtons. It would probably really give Bagara and a few things a run for their money. But I don't know. The 457 is just a great, great platform. It just is amazing.
Barrel options for the 457 is by far one of the best, possibly. But
I mean, you've got
the Ruger Precision Rimfire has a bunch of aftermarket barrels.
I'll just tell you the Voodoo's got the best selection. So there's a couple companies, and I might end up with one doing 12 twists and 13.5 molar twists and different things. And people are starting to play with the barrels to see if you really truly need a 16 twist on a 22. So
cool.
You'll have to fly out, Slav, when my buddy goes for 1,000 yards with his 22.
That'll be cool. So shooting, I know when I was in Colorado, when I was at the Comp Expo, they had the proof guys. They had a Ruger Precision Rimfire with a proof carbon fiber barrel, and I shot that out to like 670 yards. That was just like super cool. Now, granted, here East Coast, the furthest I've got my 22 was like 450 or 500. But that'll be interesting. I mean, that'd be cool to see it at 1,000. Voodoo's also 1,200 bones. Bone action. I'm not spending that on a 22.
I really wish I could pull a picture up and show him my 22.
900 yards in a 22 is 309 MOA, FYI.
Yeah, he has it. Charlie Tatcom Periscope.
Charlie Tack, yeah.
And it's the 180 MOA one, I think.
Okay, so 180 plus, let's say, a 40 or 60 MOA scope base plus
60 plus 20, so 80.
Is an 80 scope base.
Well, base and mount.
Okay. So 60 plus 20.
With a Night Force ATACR.
Okay.
So with 60 to 80 in the base with an ATACR will get you out to 600 yards. And then you add an additional 180 on top of it, and it might be 180 mils, not MOA. Then you add 180 mils on top of it, you can get it to 1,000 yards. Shooting 55 grain copper solid bullets by Cutting Edge.
Nice. I remember those from SHOT Show.
Hand loaded. We're talking hand loaded 22 rounds. So
that'll be interesting.
Yeah, that should be freaking awesome.
So from Rumble, we had the comment. So for the CZ457, low lift, short throw, rarely a mag issue. I just buy the cheapest polymer 457 rifle for the action, $520.
Yep. And I shot until you shoot a Voodoo 360, then the throw is the same. I have two 457s. I have a 17 HMR and I have a 22, which my cousin-in-law is probably going to buy off of me because he's been shooting in competition with us. But Bending Ballistics, I wish I could show you a picture of my $10,000 22.
Now, that's not the same one that we had on the video when I came over, correct?
That's my 457, and I think it was about $5,500 when you last saw it.
No, it was the one that was made by Area 419 for you.
Yeah, that's my 457. Yep.
I will include that link. That was a fun one. That looked really cool. So now you have a completely different one. Nice.
Yeah, I have I can't screen share a gun, right? YouTube yells at me.
Yeah, you can screen share just as long as you're not holding it, or like as long as like is it just the firearm, or is it the firearm with?
It's me on the gun range with it, holding it. Let me see if I can find. Let me see if I can find a picture of it by itself.
Okay, so if we get tossed, go on Rumble. Or since we've been on for almost an hour and a half, we're going to wrap it up at that point because it's just been a long day.
Actually, here it's sitting on the bench and no one's touching it. So
okay, that's fine.
We'll only show it for 1 second.
You're good.
Here we go. Share. Yes, I understand. Entire screen. Here you go, Bending Ballistics. Did it share?
Okay. Yep. Now.
There you go.
Cool.
There she is. Now we'll stop sharing.
So, what chassis was that?
So it's an MPA Matrix.
That's what it was. Okay.
With a Voodoo 360 action with a 1.25 straight taper barrel. It's got a Vortex Gen 3 on it with a American Rifle Company Embrace, a Holosun 507C on top of it, and then it has a MDT double pull bipod on the front.
Okay. So here's a question. So I have 10K rifles, but I can't see putting 10K into a 22. I appreciate the art of it. I just can't see spending that much money on it. That's just me. I feel a lot of people feel the exact same way. So
I shoot this gun every week, though.
Okay.
So shoot it every week. So here's the problem. If you come to the competition that I shoot once a month, you will see 50 rifles that are the same price point as mine.
Now, they have a production division, right?
They do have a production division.
That's for the pours.
That's for the pours.
So for the production division, what's the price limit on that? Is that like still... It's not the same as like NRO?
I think it's $2,000, including the optic.
Okay, so it's including the optic. So it's not like PRS where it's $2,500 for the gun plus the optic.
No, there's a set price, I believe. No, I think it just has to. I don't know. I'll just look it up.
Okay.
Next question, teacher.
At a match yesterday by Buzz, I used a mini pad on a plate. What are the options out there if I wanted to get something like that? What's a mini pad on a plate?
Are you talking a tack table on a tripod?
Now, the cool thing is, I told you, one of the ranges that's local to me, which is only an hour away, they run PRS 22 matches. So
That'll be good for you.
Yes.
Divisions. Okay, it must be classifications. Nope, it's not either of those. What is it? Oh, yeah, it is. Here it is. Divisions. Open base. Okay, here we go. Okay, here. I'll read you the rules. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Base division is intended to be budget-oriented. Any rifle that comes in under the combined MSRP of $1,300 as listed on the manufacturer's website shall be eligible to compete in base division. This combined MSRP is for the price of the rifle and scope only. It excludes scope rings and bases, bipods, suppressors, data cards, magazines, spare magazine holders, auto bolt releases, aftermarket triggers, extended mag releases, weight kits, hand grips, blah, blah, all the crap, right? Factory barrels may be threaded to accept the suppressor, so it has to stay a factory barrel. Base class rifles must remain in their factory configured stock. If a barreled action is removed from the factory stock and placed in an aftermarket stock, not available by the manufacturer and not available as an option to purchase as complete rifle or chassis, then the rifle will be classified as open division rifle.
Okay.
Only authorized adjustments to the rifle chassis stock itself are the following adjustments to the stock to get proper cheek weld, the bedding of the stock. Any questions regarding what is considered acceptable adjustment to the stock, please email. Rails of any type utilized to mount a bipod may be added. Base division competitors should be mindful that manufacturers may change the MSRP of their products time to time. Either price change nor discontinuation of products are the fault of the NRL 22. However, production status MSRP on the first day of the season will be considered valid for the entire season. Additionally, left-handed models identical to the configuration to right-handed models, but with a higher MSRP will be recognized at the MSRP of the right-handed version. Rifles and scopes are out of production, are difficult to check the MSRP. The NRL 22 will not maintain a list of authorized rifles or scopes due to the dynamics of the ever-changing cycle of revised models, new products, upgrades being released by manufacturers.
Okay.
There you go.
For 1,300
So it's
MSRP for a scope.
1,300. Yeah. So for gun and scope.
So Ruger Precision Rimfire and
With an Arkin EP5.
With an Arkin or like an Element or something like that.
Yeah. Most of what I'm seeing is Arkins. So
even though half of them fail and can't keep
two-thirds of them fell. But,
okay.
yeah. He's talking the mini tack table basically. Gray Ops makes one.
Okay, so we're talking about Buzz. Mini tack table.
Wait, mini. Let's see. I used it on the. Oh, okay. So did it mount underneath the rifle? Yeah, it mounted under. He's just talking about an Arca plate with a pad on it.
Okay.
So bending ballistics.
Right. So
what
Odin Works, I think, made one like that, right?
Well, Coltac makes one. Armageddon makes one. They all make one. This is what I would tell you. Go buy an Armageddon Game Changer and forget attaching plates with bags to your rifle. Don't do it. Stop doing it. Unless you're going to shoot with a tripod rear support, then mount that little tack table bag to the very front of your rifle and then use it on the cattle gate with the tripod as rear support. If not, you're better off with an Armageddon Game Changer or a Warhorse bag or a...
yeah, so we're talking something like this, right?
Yes, something like that. And there's several companies that make these. And I'll tell you what the issue with this is. Because of the metal wings on this plate, your gun cannot sink into that bag. So you've created, like when you shoot with a shooting bag, you want to put that shooting bag over the cattle guard, right, over the gate. And you want, when you set your rifle down, you want it to sink into the bag. And you want it to keep it from rolling. Like it's got to get in the bag. The problem with these plates is your gun, you've created a pivot point where it attaches to your gun. Now everything pivots on that, and you're not actually using the bag to sink into it. So I would stay away from these unless you're using it on the extreme end of your gun and you're using a tripod rear support. Then you're creating 2 points as far apart as possible, and it's fine. And you're controlling the roll of the rifle with the tripod's leg. Now, if you're just free recoiling it or you're not using a rear support in any way, Game Changer is the way to go. Yeah, the Schmedium is perfect. I use a 1+1 is what I use, which is just bigger, just slightly bigger than a Schmedium.
Okay. So on a scope, Helios Gen 2.
Yeah, I've nothing wrong with the Helios. The Gen 2's a good scope. Nothing wrong with the Helios. I'm a glass snob, so don't listen to anything I say about low end glass because
But
it all sucks.
if you're playing with the mortals in factory or production,
Yeah, Helios Gen 2 is a great one. The Argos is a good one. The EP4, the EP5, the
Element
the
Titan,
the
Venoms.
I've never really used anything from Element, but the Diamondback Tactical, the Venom by Vortex, and the Strike Eagle are all great. Well, they're good scopes. Great scopes are way in a different category.
Yeah.
They're all good scopes in that.
And I guess the problem
price
is, so
point.
it's basically for the scope, it's the MSRP of the scope. So with the MSRP, I mean, there's a big difference between the MSRP and the actual street price on a lot of those scopes.
Which is why you see Arkans, because they're the same.
Yep.
Whereas a Vortex is got, I don't know, their MSRP is 50% what you'll pay anywhere, or 20%
exactly.
or whatever, right? So,
All right. Interesting.
there you go. I would have used my Game Changer +1, but I want to try the plate. Hey, go Game Changer +1 and don't ever look back. I'll tell you what. I switched to the gun that I showed to the Matrix, so my gun is perfectly balanced. You can put the 1+1 bag up on the tip of a ting trap, and you can set my gun up there, and it will stay all day on its balance point right in front of the mag well. So if you look at my scores in the competition I've shot since last June, you can see an exponential rise when I stopped using anything but one bag, and I changed the gun I was using and my balance point, and it's all downhill from there. Just my score went like I was averaging 400s, and then my average is now in the 680s. So like it went. So.
So from the 3-gun world, the Arca plates are way too heavy for me, so I don't carry them anymore. I did for one season, but never used them, so I ditched them on Sniper's Hideout.
I need to come run a 3-gun. The problem is I don't know how to use an AR or a handgun.
Well, it's easy. You don't need to run the bolt. You just pull the trigger, and it does everything for you.
I know. I need to practice. It's on my list, actually.
So actually, I think what we're going to do, so Ryan Bending Ballistics, he has a range in Kentucky, which goes out to 1,500 yards. So I think we're going to put together a media event for you, tracked optics, and actually do like combine it with the match and stuff like that.
You know what? I do have a CZ Shadow 2, orange. So I do have a gun I can run. I do have a handgun I can run in 3-gun.
Okay.
And I always wanted a reason to buy a Benelli M4, so.
I do have a Vepr 12. I bought one. It was on my list, and I saw one at an auction. I had to buy it. I had to rescue it. I had my reticle wash out of my EP5 a few months ago. My Helos doesn't do that. Yes, Helos for entry level, poor Slavs. Yep.
Nothing wrong with the Helos. One of my favorite scopes for a long, long time was the Midas TAC, which is just barely a step up from the Helos. The Midas TAC is a great scope. And then one of the scopes I've probably ran the longest was the Ares ETR. Yeah.
So I said the Ares ETR.
I used a Kronos the other day. Go back.
The Kronos. So here's the thing. So like the
go
Kronos
back to the Ares
is
ETR.
Outclassed, but the Ares ETR, even though it's Chinese, it's at the top of its class for what it is.
Oh yeah. I love the Ares ETR. Used one for a long time, and then I discovered the Gen 3 Razor.
You don't run any ZCOs or Schmiff and Benders?
So I've owned them all. I've owned a Tangent Theta. I've owned a Zero Compromise. I've owned
Collis and all those guys.
I've never owned a Collis or a Schmidt, but I've used them. I also used a Heinstolt once.
Leicas or Zeiss?
Never used the Leica. I've used the Zeiss binoculars, but never one of their rifle scopes. Also, I used a Swaro rifle scope only once or twice. But for 22 shooting, I absolutely adore the Gen 3 Razor. It parallaxes at 10 yards, so I can sit in my basement and I can dry fire practice in my basement without a DFAT. So
Very cool. All right. Um,
I do have a Franke duck hunting shotgun, so I could roll the camo duck hunting shotgun just for giggles.
just
I
get
actually really
the
like the Franke. The Franke's a freaking sweet shotgun.
Mossberg 940 JM. Those are
I'd s-
popular for 3-gun, right?
Well, should I just bring the Shockwave, right? You know, like no butt stock, just from the hip. Oh my gosh.
Nice.
You know how much fun it would be just to crash a 3-gun event with just ridiculous stuff like
Okay, so
acting like
so
you've never even known what it is. Like you bring a Shockwave in like a leg holster.
well, if you want to talk ridiculous, a friend of mine that came out with me to SHOT Show, not this year but last year, he big like World War II type guy. He does reenactments and all that. I saw footage of him at a match with a Sten gun, a full auto Sten gun, and he was shooting that. I'm like, is this like a machine gun subgun match, or did you just show up to a PCC with a Sten? He's like, I showed up to a PCC with a Sten because there's nothing in the rules about it. So he just had fun. I always swore. So I mean, I was a big USPSA competitor till I hurt my wrist, and I was always threatening that one day I'm gonna go shoot the match with a Desert Eagle. I never got to that, but I think that would be cool.
I think it would be fun. So in June, after the series competition is over, my buddies and I are all going to show up with like base class guns and just roll through base class. Like, it should be fun. So I have every base class gun there is, so not hard.
Now here on a base gun match, so can you actually put on a different bolt handle, different bolt knob, and all of that stuff, or no?
Yeah, the only thing you can't touch is the barrel and the stock.
Okay.
Like anything else, you can. It says you could change the trigger.
Yeah,
I
it
didn't
looks
think
like.
you could change the trigger, but it says you can.
Well,
So
for PRS production division, no.
right for PRS production division, no.
But NRL, I guess NRL 22, what you read, you can.
Yeah, my PRS production gun has a one of a kind trigger in it. Trigger Tech made me a diamond and made it look like the field trigger. So I have a diamond that's painted
cheater
to look like a
cheater.
I take it out of my gun for production class. It's not worth getting banned from the sport over something like that. But I swap it in and out just for giggles because for those of you who don't know, the Ruger Custom Shop has a 20-ounce trigger. It doesn't go lower. Well, I have a 4-ounce diamond trigger that looks just like it. So I'll swap it in just to freak people out.
Right. So here's a question. So since you brought it up, what's the deal with Trigger Tech Ruger Precision rifle triggers? Are they coming or no?
Oh man, they're struggling on mass producing it. Is what I think. Here,
I mean, it's been 2 years now.
I'll
right?
read you the okay. Number one, they must have won some big OEM contract, so they pushed it right.
Mm-hmm.
They won like Seiko or Tika or Weatherby or someone, and they don't have the capacity to do the Ruger trigger and take on an OEM job, right? So I'm guessing they pushed it for that reason, right? And then I've been working on the Glock trigger, right? They're going to sell way more Glock triggers than they are Ruger triggers, right? This is business, guys. This is business decisions. The Rugers are going to sell 10,000 of them a year compared to 100,000 Glock triggers, right? So it's just one of those things, right?
So then that kind of goes back to the question: Did Ruger do follow-ups on the Ruger Custom Shop RPR? Or I mean, like, is Trigger Tech, did they already have extra triggers or what?
What?
So if we're saying that they haven't done another run of those triggers, or did they do another run of triggers, the special triggers for the Custom Shop RPR?
Okay, so the Custom Shop trigger is its own trigger.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot take the Custom Shop trigger and put it in a Gen 1, 2, or 3 Ruger.
Wait, you can't?
No. They're different. It's built for the Gen 3.5 and the custom shop. It's not backwards compatible, and that's what stopped them from releasing their trigger. They sent me a trigger. And I said, guys, do you want this to work with XY or XYZ, A, B, C, D, whatever? We want A, B, C, D, whatever. I'm like, well, it doesn't work because it's not designed for it. And I can show you.
So do the Timneys work in the custom shop RPR?
Probably they probably would. I've never tried it, but I could.
Now that now that it's warm, I'm gonna go do that.
I got my handy dandy box of triggers here. So
Trigger Tech needs to make one just for the Ruger American. Yes.
So my Ruger custom shop does have the diamond in it currently because this is the Trigger Tech field trigger.
Yep.
And this is the one that works in the custom shop. As you can see, it says 20 ounces on it. This only goes down to 20 ounces. Okay. This here is a Gen 1 Timney trigger. As you can see, it doesn't have the J cutout in the back. That J cutout where you take the parts off the factory trigger and you put it on the Timney is what makes it compatible across the board. So what the Trigger Tech does is right here. You can see the way this feeds in right here. See that? Ooh. See the feed channel? Okay. Well, the Timney does not have that feed channel on there, right? Well, the custom shop requires that piece, right? Where all the other ones do not. Now, when you get into the Magnum triggers and stuff, this will not work in a Magnum, but it will work in a Gen 1 or a Gen 2, right? So here's a diamond, and again, you can see they've been modifying and trying to get them to work, but they haven't. So we stopped their first production run because we told them they weren't backwards compatible. Now they've been fighting that backwards compatibility for the last couple of years, and then they've got other projects, right? It's, you know how it goes. The guy with the biggest dollars always wins the production time. So I will read you from Mark's email that he sent me just a couple days ago.
Mark Gurney or Mark from Trigger Tech?
Mark from Trigger Tech.
Okay,
he asked me what percentage would sell better. He asked me centerfire versus rimfire, and I told him rimfire would sell better. Sorry, centerfire would sell better because there's a lot more of them. So it says,
but the Ruger Precision Rimfire trigger would also work in the Ruger American Rimfire, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I haven't taken one apart. If it's the same as the, I don't know. I don't know because the American trigger is
for both.
Different.
Okay.
But I don't know. I have a long range at the shop. I guess I should take it apart.
Well, the long range I think is a little bit different. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, the long range has a different scope base for sure. I do know that much. Let's see. Where's Mark's email? Mark. This is not the email I thought it was. Mark. Okay, here we go. So in February, I asked him how it's going, and he said it's not going well. So I told him I would sacrifice a goat so that it would work. Let's see here. 2-stage. We are testing the rimfire and centerfire triggers on March 15th, so hopefully I'll have some answers. Tikas are moving. Tika triggers Q4, probably. So I need to follow up with him about how his testing went last week. So, but if their testing went good, it should be really close. They're struggling to mass produce them. And I don't know why. They're struggling with something. So, but they're also not getting the full engineering time that they need from their engineer because he's been on other projects. So,
can't they get another engineer?
You know what? It's kind of funny because him and the guy at Timney are like the same age, and eventually they're going to retire. And I don't know what Timney and Trigger Tech are going to do for trigger engineers because they're both close to retirement age. Calvin and Igor. I think his name's Igor.
So on the topic of Ruger American, so Jard announced that they now have a Ruger American trigger for the Gen 2. So Timney,
Yeah, it was a simple modification because you don't really have to modify the trigger. It's all done in the bolt and the bolt handle.
okay.
You just have to make the safety. You have to make that extra space for the safety to click. Other than that, it's for goodness, it's all controlled by the handle on the. It's all controlled by the handle. So the handle and the shroud cutouts. So I'm not surprised that Jar didn't have it ready, honestly. And Timney, if they wanted to have it ready, could have it ready just as fast.
Yeah, that's interesting. So actually, I'm going to go on Timney's website while we're at it. I am surprised.
I lost my contact at Timney, so I don't. My relationship over there's not quite as good as it used to be.
Even though you're a dealer for Timney.
I used to have the former CEO. I have his personal cell phone number. Like,
Yep.
he's
they
not
have
the CEO anymore.
Timney now has the AK drop-in trigger. Interesting.
And the main customer service sales lady at Timney got snatched by Trigger Tech. She works at Trigger Tech now.
What was her name? I think.
Was it Katie?
Okay.
She's at SHOT Show. She's the lady in the booth.
Yeah.
I don't remember her name 100%. AK drop-in trigger, Glock trigger. Yeah. Let's see.
So the
here.
Ruger Precision Rimfire is different from the Ruger American Rimfire. Yeah, it is different. Yeah, there's like a little bolt in the front. Yeah, that one's different. So no center fire for Gen 2 yet.
Oh yeah, see, you can see the J cut out on those, right? So you're taking parts off of the factory trigger and putting them on the Ruger triggers. So
cool. All right. So from Rumble, we had another comment. The Track Torque has been a great optic as well. Yeah, I love the guys at Tracked. They make really, really awesome scopes. My new favorite is the Tracked 4-25, which has like 42 mils of internal elevation adjustment. So that will it's a super nice scope. I love it. So I've already
I need a track hookup.
I will put you in touch with them. Yeah, the problem is like they are a consumer direct brand, but I think they should be open to like smart partnerships. And they want to do an event, so that's why I was thinking like Anarchy Outdoors, Tracked Optics would be a good one for, and I know they want to do something together.
We should do it. We should do an event.
Mm-hmm.
I need this summer to put my range together, and then we can do an event.
You can do that's awesome.
2 miles, baby. Let's go.
In the fall? Nice.
Sure. I got a whole bunch of my fellow shooters to come out 2 weeks from now, like 20 or 30 of them. And we'll clean it up and set targets. So it should be nice.
That's going to be dope. We can go out to Utah as well. Nice. But actually, Ryan, while you're here, send me a text. I got to put you in touch with a person here who does the IWI gas gun series, and he wants to expand the event. I'm like, I got just the person for you to talk to. So that'll be good for you.
I would love to talk to guys at Night Force, but I just don't move a lot of optics. And optics are high fraud. So they get purchased fraudulently quite a bit. So and I've talked to the sales guys at Night Force and stuff. We just can't move the volume that they would want us to, and yeah, optics are hard to move. There's too many Facebook groups with bottom feeders that just undercut everyone, and like I have to charge sales tax because I'm a real business. it's hard. A couple of years ago, I used to do hundreds of thousands of dollars of optics every year. I bet you I do 40 max now. So
Cool.
yep, too many bottom feeders in the pond.
Well, what about like so I know you're a dealer for MDT, you have a bunch of chassis with KRG. What about, I'm sure you would sell more optics than chassis, right? Or is there just that much more competition on optics than chassis?
I sell a lot more chassis than I do optics, for sure. Well, here's the other issue, right? Every Tom, Dick, and Harry can get a Vortex at 50% off with their LEO deals or their law enforcement deals, or you have an Expert Voice or a GovX account or whatever, right? So I don't know. It's really hard. We did really well with Athlon before they opened up to distribution, and they signed up every mom, pa person who just sits on Facebook and sells them for $5 over cost. Like I have a real business. I have 11 employees to support. You know what I mean? Like I'm not playing the game. So, and Garmin's currently fighting this too. They opened up the chronographs to the bottom feeders, and now they're fighting map violations like crazy. Yeah.
Oh wow.
And they were warned. They were warned that like you need 25 solid dealers and then forget the rest and let those 25 dealers do it, right? And those dealers include Cabela's and Bass Pro and Sportsman's, and then Area 419 and Anarchy Outdoors and Midway USA. Like you don't need every little Tom, Dick, and Harry who just bottom feeds on Facebook to support your stuff. And now they're just
are they just like they don't have minimum requirements, or?
Yeah, they do, but like if you're a Facebook seller, you just like, hey, PM me. I'll give it to you for $10 over cost or $100 over cost, or I don't charge sales tax or shipping, or like I have to charge sales tax in every state I have Nexus in, right? Okay. That's an expense that these guys don't have. It costs me tens of thousands of dollars every year just to track who I owe sales tax to. And then I had to go file in every freaking state. Like it's a lot of work. Like you want to play in the business of being a real business. Well, I have $100,000 of operating costs before I sell a single thing. Lights, insurance, whatever, right? Like, I don't know. The bottom, we hit a sore note. I hate bottom feeders on Facebook. I hate them. So, but yeah, we sell a lot of chassis. KRG, I move a ton of KRG Bravos every month, and some other stuff. So we move a few ACC Elites here and there. We move some Wooks and some other things, but yeah, I mean we kind of focus on our products, so we move a lot of our stuff. Been moving a metric ton of UF Pro, but yeah, I mean optics is just too saturated.
Good to know. Very, very cool. And because, I mean, especially since all of the stuff is in your inventory, you're not drop shipping. I know Athlon, with some of the dealers, they're letting people drop ship Athlon as well.
Yep.
Very cool. All right. So I think on that cheery note, we are going to start wrapping up, even though there's like more and more people coming on Rumble.
Well, any final questions from Rumble? Hey, Rumble, if you have a question, you got 2 minutes. Put it in.
Yes. There's a couple of people who are asking questions on Rumble, but I think actually on Rumble, it's a lot of like fake viewers, or like they're like bots that are counted, but I will say like there's a good amount of views on there. So Ron was basically, labor taxes are steep in Kentucky.
Labor tax, you just mean what do they call it? FICA? Is it FICA taxes? What is it?
FICA, I guess, like the unemployment taxes and all that stuff.
Yeah, unemployment, Social Security, workers' comp, all that crap.
Very cool. While we're waiting for any of those, suppressors, are you going to be a dealer since you're an SOT? Any plans on distributing suppressors, or at least like the Area 419 stuff, which they make the Maverick?
I used to do suppressors. The issue is you need a full-time person doing suppressors, and you need enough suppressor volume to really justify it. So I live in a small town, like 100,000 people, right? The number of people buying suppressors is not huge, and it's a lot of time, a lot of paperwork. You get things wrong, and then we had we had people move out of state. Well, if you move out of state while you're waiting for suppressor, you have to resubmit the form, right? So we had that happen, and then we've had a couple suppressors for years. We can't figure out who they belong to. They just showed up one day, can't find a note. So we finally have cleared all of our, and you go inventory these every month or every couple weeks, and like there's just not enough money now. Like you go down the street to the local sporting goods store where they have a gun section, but they have a guy that does suppressor paperwork all day. You have to go on Monday through Friday. They won't do it on the weekends, and they've got it like a system where I just don't sustain.
Well, not necessarily for Anarchy Outdoors to be a dealer to sell directly, but for Anarchy Outdoors to be a distributor for them. So you can buy cans through Anarchy Outdoors rather than going directly through the manufacturer or somebody else, and then you would form 3 of them to a local SOT.
Yeah, we could probably do that, but again, it's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of headache. It's we won't ever get rid of our SOT. We won't ever get rid of our FFL. It just makes working in the industry a lot easier. But we'll order stuff in for ourselves, but then we transfer it to a local SOT and we let them do the paperwork. So just there's a lot of rules and regulations, and you've got to keep up with it. You need a compliance department. Honestly, you probably need an NFA lawyer, to help you. The FFL is, the ATF is really good at setting up FFLs, really bad at training you what you actually have to know and understand with an FFL. And I watched the business down the road. They were getting their FFL inspected because they moved locations, and the ATF saw something they didn't like, came back 2 weeks later. That business doesn't exist anymore. They came in and seized everything they had because the ATF has a zero tolerance policy now.
Yeah.
So like they came and seized everything. They didn't have to say anything. The company went bankrupt. They sold everything. Now the machine shop, which is a separate entity from the gun side, they lost so much on the gun side that they lost the whole machine shop, everything. Like the ATF's like a cancer that doesn't go away. So if we just decided from a business standpoint, it's less than 0.1% of our revenue, it's not worth it. We can put money in other things.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. So on that note, so from Rumble, last one was looking forward to your PRS matches. Love Anarchy Outdoors. That was the comment from there. And on that note, so if you want to help support the channel, you can shop through our link. And I think one of the things we're going to do is if you shop through our link, you'll be able to get our patches and stickers over. You definitely have to do that. That's going to be awesome. So we'll integrate that.
Have so for example, throw a patch in anyone who orders from your code.
Yep. So let's say, for example, like if it's an order under $100, we would do some stickers. If you do over that, you'd be like a patch.
Yeah, we could do that.
Cool. Yay. That's going to be fun. All right. So on that note, so for example, it is slav.ly/anarchy outdoors. And if you are a channel member, there is a little bit more of a discount code. And then otherwise there will be, so video wise, I know we completely skipped over this. I have 4 videos that right now are members only, which will be public as soon as YouTube approves the monetization on those. And then I'm going to basically get all of the SHOT Show videos out over the next 2 weeks. And then I have a bunch of videos that I recorded last year that are going to be out. And then the next intermediate projects are, so we have the Ruger American Ranch. That is done. That is filmed. That's going to be edited and published. We have the Ruger American Standard. That's going to be the next video. Then I'm waiting for Mr. Anarchy Outdoors to get the Gen 2 goodies and upgrades.
Have I not sent you any?
Not the Gen 2.
Oh, they weren't ready. Okay.
They weren't ready. You said you're going to get them to. I think your words were like, "Can you wait a week? I'll get them to you."
Yes. Remind me on Wednesday, and
Okay.
I'll find out for sure.
Cool. And then, so we're going to have the accessories for that. We're going to take a look at what's compatible, what's not. Then I have a bunch of rimfire guns, and we are going to go shoot some matches with those. So that's going to be always fun and exciting. And then we're going to start integrating our suppressor coverage into the videos as well. So lots of fun and exciting stuff. I'm forcing myself to release a whole bunch of videos, have an editor who's working on a bunch of other videos, and this will be a fun and exciting year. So as always, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you on the next live stream, same time, same place next week. Good night.